Hello, and welcome back to Cancer Buzz. Lack of participation in cancer clinical trials has long been an issue, and so has lack of diversity among participants. Today, we're examining our ability to make cancer care more equitable by bringing trial opportunities to community sites. Dr. Alex Spira is an oncologist and researcher at Virginia Cancer Specialists in Fairfax, Virginia. He also served as a key investigator for the Amgen-sponsored CodeBreak 200 trial, a trial that has proved to be visionary for the future of cancer care by including a large number of U.S. community oncology sites. Dr. Spira, why don't you give us an overview of the trial and its importance?
Sure. So thanks for having me. So Sotorasib and the CodeBreak 200 study is a very exciting study for a couple of reasons. One is KRAS G12C, and KRAS in general has been the most undruggable target for quite some time, and we finally have some headway in a specific KRAS mutation called KRAS G12C. We have the phase 1 data, which was beyond promising, which was in all tumor types, but with a major focus on lung, that was just published in the New England Journal 2 weeks ago and showed phenomenal response rates, a very good durable response in many patients. Not a home run, meaning it doesn't work in everybody, and is probably the first of many drugs and the first generation of drugs to come out that specifically targets G12C. But now we need to do the confirmatory study, and CodeBreak 200 is the confirmatory study, which is randomized versus second-line lung cancer therapy, which is docetaxel. Many clinical studies that require a confirmatory study go up head-to-head against docetaxel, and this is why it's being done in the second-line setting.
The trial's available at dozens of sites in the U.S., including in many community settings. Why is that so important?
So these patients are in the community, right? So this is a bread and butter oncology study, and it's being done at many, many community sites throughout the United States. US Oncology, Sarah Cannon, and many others as well, even not affiliated with those. So these patients lie in the community, and it's important. It's a big study. Right? It's more than a few number of patients, so we need to get community sites involved because that's where 90% of cancer patients are treated in the U.S. So it's being done probably at an oncologist near you, as I like to say, but it's being done at many sites that patients should have access to.
Talk to us about enrolling a diverse patient population and why that's so important.
So clinical studies, when typically held at, what we call the traditional academic medical centers, and to be candid, there's a lot of places that do clinical studies right now, even beyond the traditional academic places, but they are few and far between. So you select for number one, you select for patients that can only get to those sites, right? So that's not the true population of patients. If a patient can only get to a site that's 50 miles away, that's not reflecting what we like to say real world oncology. Furthermore, we're not getting the good racial and ethnic diversity that we need. We'll all freely admit in oncology, like many things in life, that clinical trials are only picking specific patient populations, not looking at minorities, not looking at what the real United States looks like right now. So it's important that we get out to the community where the average patient lives and exists, not just for ethnic diversity, but for what they're feeling and what they're doing as well, because that's really what we're faced, right? At the end of the day, when a clinical trial approves a drug, it's approved in whatever the patient population that trial is done in. And it always turns out that once it gets into those real world patients, we learn a lot more. Either those patients are not quite those that can travel 200 miles or may have different biologic makeup due to ethnicity or whatever else.
We're working to address these challenges for trials. Speak to your colleagues here. What can we learn from CodeBreak 200?
The biggest point to talk about with this and any clinical study is, clinical studies are the number one choice for all of our patients, right? We should be getting our patients on clinical studies whenever possible. And this is a great clinical study to have. This drug and the class of drugs has shown phenomenal promise, meaning the preliminary data shows that it works and works well. One of the take-home messages is that when we think about targeted therapies, everybody's expecting response rates. I'll give you the example of osimertinib in regular EGFR mutated lung cancer. Those response rates are 70+% with a durability of response in 1 to 2 years. That's not what we're seeing here, and it's not what we expected. Nevertheless, the preliminary data shows that this is a great drug. We got to get our patients on clinical studies for all those reasons. We have to make new and better drugs. It has to be done in the community where these patients live. And this is a very standard patient population that we're looking to compare it to. So it's hard to think about. Sometimes if you don't have the clinical study, you have to refer the patient out. But by all means, this is the right thing to do for anybody with these patients. Find a clinical study. It doesn't have to be this one. This is the CodeBreak 200 is a great study, but there are others out there. So find any clinical study for any patient at any given time.
Thank you for listening today. You can check the show notes for more information on today's discussion. Cancer Buzz will be back next week to dive into patient education on biosimilars. Until then, this is Summer Johnson. Stay well.